I'm Benson, a regular guy living in small-town Georgia. In this place of oak trees and friendly greetings, I run a small gun store and live a quiet, comfortable life. However, just when I thought my life was going to go on like this, an unexpected discovery shattered my tranquility. It was a Friday evening, and I was in the store taking inventory as usual, ready to call it a day. Just then, my wife Lety's cell phone rang. She was helping me organize the shelves in the store, and when she heard it ring, she walked quickly to the corner to answer it. I glanced at the caller ID and realized that the name was Teague, a name I knew well. He was the marketing director of Lety's company, a handsome and charismatic middle-aged man. Lety often talked about him at home, saying how capable he was and how respected he was. At first, I did not think much about it, but gradually, a vague uneasiness began to grow in my heart. When Lety returned to the counter after the call, I noticed that her cheeks were a little flushed and her eyes were a little averted. "Who is it?" I asked in a casual manner. "Oh, nothing, just some company business," Lety replied vaguely, quickly changing the subject. I nodded my head and didn't ask any further questions. But deep down, I had a feeling that it wasn't that simple. Over the next few days, I began to watch Lety's every move. I noticed that she started to receive text messages from Teague late at night, which she would quickly delete after reading them. She also started to work overtime on weekends more often, citing important projects at the company that needed urgent work. There were signs that Lety was hiding something from me. A terrible thought began to swirl in my head. Was she doing something with Teague? I tried to convince myself that I was just being paranoid. Lety had always been a loyal and dependable wife, and in the 5 years of our marriage, she had never given me any reason to doubt. But the uneasiness inside me was getting heavier and heavier like a stone. Finally, one day, I plucked up the courage to ask Lety, "Honey, is there something you're not telling me lately? Did something happen between you and Teague? Did something happen between you and Teague?" Lety froze, her face instantly turning pale. She opened her mouth as if to explain something, but in the end just lowered her head and was silent. I felt a twister, as if my heart had been gripped hard. "Tell me, Lety, what really happened? Did you, did you betray our marriage?" Lety finally looked up in tears. "I'm sorry, Benson. I didn't mean to lie to you. Me and Teague, She choked and broke down to tell the story. It turned out that after a drunken stupor, Lety had made a bet with Teague. If Teague's team could accomplish their sales goals within 6 months, Lety would agree to one of his demands, no matter what that demand was. I felt a wave of dizziness and anger flooded my brain. "So, you're just going to use our marriage as a bargaining chip and bet on it willy-nilly? How could you? How can you do this to me?" "No, Benson, it's not what you think." Lety cried and explained. "I was drunk and I didn't even think he'd ask for that. I swear, nothing happened between me and him. It was just a stupid mistake. A mistake that I will regret for the rest of my life." I stared into Lety's eyes, trying to find a trace of a lie. But all I saw was deep remorse and guilt. My heart began to waver.
Lety.
I don't know what to do. I covered my face in pain. "I love you. Always have. But your behavior makes me feel sad and betrayed like never before. I don't know if things will ever be the same between us again." Lety was sobbing uncontrollably, kneeling in front of me and pleading for forgiveness. I stood starkly, letting my mind wander. Our marriage was in an unprecedented crisis. What do I do? How can I face this fact that makes me heartbroken? For a while, I was at a loss. All I knew was that I needed time to calm down and think about our future. That night, I didn't say a word to Lety and sat alone in the living room until dawn. Outside the window, the sun was slowly rising, but my heart was in an endless haze. Our marriage, can it go back to the way it was? I don't know, but I do know that it's going to be a long, hard test of our love, of our commitment. After that sleepless night, an eerie silence fell between Lety and me. We were both trying to avoid the heart-wrenching topic, but we couldn't pretend that nothing had happened. There was an invisible depression in the air, making every breath heavy and difficult. I began to spend all my time at work as an escape from my inner torment. I worked late into the night at the gun store, checking the performance of each weapon and counting the number of bullets in each round. The cold metal seemed to be the only thing I could talk to. Letty also became quiet. She was no longer as happy as before, sharing her work stories after work every day, and no longer pestering me to talk about our future plans. She just sat quietly by herself in front of the window, staring blankly into the distance, as if she was thinking about something. We both waited for the other to break the deadlock, and we both looked forward to an opportunity for us to be honest about the issue. But as the days went by, we never took that step. Until one day, my heart couldn't take it anymore. I decided that I had to do something. I had to find a solution. Otherwise, I was afraid that our marriage would really come to an end. That night, I made dinner, lit candles, and set roses on the table. When Letty walked in tiredly, she froze when she saw what was in front of her. "Benson, what's going on?" she asked cautiously, surprise and confusion shining in her eyes. I took a deep breath and stepped forward to take her hand. "Letty, we need to talk. About, about you and Teague." Letty's face instantly turned pale, and her body trembled slightly. But she didn't dodge, just nodded gently. "Okay, Benson, let's talk." We sat down at the table and stared at each other face to face. After a long time, I finally found the courage to speak and break the silence. "Letty, for a while now, I've been wondering what went wrong between us. I know that what happened between you and Teague was just an accident, a bad decision, but it's made me wonder about our relationship, wonder about our marriage." I paused, trying to keep my voice from trembling. "Tell me, Letty, do you love me? Do you still have faith in our marriage? Or are you tired of all this?" Letty's eyes instantly reddened. She reached out and took my hand in hers, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No, Benson, I never got tired of our marriage. I never stopped loving you. You are the most important person in my life. You have given me a warm home and endless care and support." She choked, her voice full of remorse. "I know I made a mistake, an irreparable mistake. But please believe me, it was just a moment of confusion, a moment of delusion. I swear, nothing happened between me and Teague. I don't have any feelings for him. The only person I love is you." I looked at Letty's sobbing face, and the anger in my heart gradually calmed down. I gently wiped the tears from her face and took her in my arms. "I believe in you, Letty, and I still love you as much as I did the day we met. But our relationship, our trust, has cracked. We need some time to repair the cracks." Letty looked up at me, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "You mean—" I took a deep breath and spoke my mind slowly. "Letty, we need to redefine our relationship and regain the trust between us. So, I would like to propose a pact, a 1-year pact. During this year, you will obey me completely and unconditionally. No matter what I ask you to do, you can't refuse, and you can't have any complaints. In this way, I want you to prove to me your love for me and your loyalty to our marriage." Letty's eyes widened, as if she couldn't believe her ears. "You mean, you want me to act like a slave, completely submissive to you?" I laughed bitterly and shook my head. "No, Letty, I'm not asking you to be my slave. I'm just hoping that by doing this, we can rebuild trust and rediscover the understanding and closeness between us. This is a test, a test that we must face together." Letty was silent for a long time, as if she was thinking about my offer. Finally, she nodded gently. "Okay, Benson, I promise. If this is the only way to fix our marriage, if this is the only way to prove my love for you, I'll take the deal." She lifted her head and looked me firmly in the eyes. "From today, I am yours, completely yours. Whatever you want me to do, I will obey without reservation. Because I love you, Benson, and I'll do anything for our marriage." When I heard Letty's words, my heart was flooded with mixed emotions. I was touched by her sincerity and grateful for her dedication, but at the same time, I felt a little uneasy about the coming unknown. I know it's going to be a long, hard process. It will take time for both of us to get used to this new way of being together and to rebuild the bridge between us. But I firmly believe that as long as we work together, and as long as we maintain our love for each other, we will be able to get through this difficult time and usher in the second spring of our marriage. I held Letty's hand tightly and planted a kiss on her forehead. Thank you, Lety, for giving us a chance to start over. I swear, I will love you with all my being and take care of our marriage forever. That night, we had dinner by candlelight and exchanged a kiss filled with love and hope. At that moment, I knew that a new page had been turned in our marriage. Although the road ahead is still unknown, although we still have a lot of difficulties to face, but I believe that as long as there is the power of love, there is nothing we cannot cross. From that day on, Lety and I began our year-long obedience covenant. We both knew that it would be a process full of trials and tribulations, but we were willing to try this unusual approach for the sake of each other and our marriage. At first, everything seemed a bit strange and awkward. Lety was not used to listening to me completely and sometimes subconsciously voiced her opinions. I didn't know how to exercise this new power, how to make Lety feel loved and valued without hurting her self-esteem. We were like two beginners, clumsily exploring this new field, stumbling, but always walking hand in hand. Gradually, I began to learn to observe Lety's reactions and adjust my decisions according to her emotions and needs. Sometimes I would give her small punishments, such as asking her to give up her favorite TV show, or asking her to do some extra chores during the day. But more often, I give her rewards, little surprises that make her feel loved and cherished. I began to prepare breakfast for her every morning, leaving sweet notes on her coffee cup. I began to take the initiative to share the housework, so that she can have more time to rest and relax. I began to plan some romantic dates, take her to try something new that she has never experienced. Lety was pleasantly surprised by the changes in me. She gradually let go of her inner guard and began to devote herself to the game. She began to actively seek my advice and began to unreservedly show her vulnerability and dependence in front of me. In her eyes, the spark of love was rekindled, which was a mixture of trust, joy, and passion. Our lives have become more exciting and fulfilling than ever before because of this engagement. We began to try out some new ways of being together and began to show our most real and honest sides to each other. Once I asked Lety to complete a portrait of me in one day. Lety had never studied painting and had no special talent for art, but she gladly accepted the challenge, gazing intently at my face and sketching me on the canvas, stroke by stroke, as she saw me. When she showed me the finished painting, I was surprised to find that the man in the painting, although his lines were simple and his features a bit distorted, exuded a unique charm. That was Lety's vision of me, a man who, though not perfect, deserved to be loved with all his heart. I hugged Lety gently and whispered in her ear, "Thank you, darling. This is the most beautiful gift I've ever received." Another time, I took Lety to a dance class. She always thought she had no talent for dancing and was too shy to dance in public. But with my encouragement, she found the courage to step into the dance class. At first, Lety's movements were a bit stiff, and her face was full of constraints and lack of confidence. But as the music flowed, and with my leadership and encouragement, she gradually let go of her body and began to sway to the rhythm, and a smile gradually appeared on her face. In the spinning and jumping, I saw a whole new Lety, a woman with energy, confidence, and charisma, a woman who made me fall in love all over again. That night, we stayed in the dance studio until late at night. We just held each other, swaying slowly to the music that only we could hear. I knew that our hearts had never been so close. In this way, in this year's time together, we have reacquainted ourselves with each other and ourselves. I found out that Lety has so many unknown lovely sides, so many sparkling points that I should discover and take care of. And Lety also found that I am not the stubborn and strict husband she imagined, but a man who is willing to give everything for her and grow up with her. Our relationship, in this special mode of getting along with each other, continues to heat up, become more and more solid, more and more deep. Every day, we are touched by each other's contribution and proud of each other's growth. We know that we are walking hand in hand on a road that no one has ever traveled before, a road that is rugged but leads to happiness. However, just when our relationship was getting sweeter and sweeter, an unexpected turn of events suddenly came into our lives. That day, Lety received a phone call, and her face instantly turned white. She put down the phone trembling, and tears came to her eyes. "What's the matter, honey? What's wrong?" I put a nervous arm around her shoulders and gently patted her back. It's Teague, Lety choked out. He was in a car accident and is in the hospital right now. The doctor said that he might not make it through the night. My heart sank. Despite the damage Teague had done to our marriage at the moment, in the face of the threat to our lives, all the grudges seemed so trivial. Don't worry, Lety, I said firmly. We'll go to the hospital now and check on him. Whatever happens, I'll be by your side and we'll face it together. Lety gave me a grateful look and held my hand tightly. I knew that this would be another test in our marriage, but I firmly believe that with the power of love, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. Let's walk hand in hand, my dear. No matter what lies ahead, I'll always be with you. On the way to the hospital, I held Lety's hand tightly, trying to give her some strength and comfort. Her face was pale, her eyes were red and swollen, and she had obviously been suppressing her inner fear and anxiety. I can understand how she feels. Despite the damage Teague had done to our marriage, he had been Lety's colleague and friend for many years. In the face of a life-threatening situation, any past grudges seemed small and insignificant. Don't worry, Lety, I whispered. I'm sure Teague will pull through. He's so strong and optimistic, he won't give up that easily. Lety forced a smile, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you, Benson. Thank you for being there for me at this time. I was really scared of losing him. My heart tightened and I subconsciously increased the force on my hands. Don't think so much, my dear. We have to believe in miracles and the power of life. No matter what happens, I'll always be by your side, giving you support and comfort. Lety nodded and rested her head gently on my shoulder. We drove to the hospital in silence, our hearts heavy with worry and prayers for Teague. However, when we arrived at the hospital, we were greeted with shocking news. Are you Teague's family? A nurse-like woman greeted her with a slightly suspicious expression. We're his friends and co-workers. I quickly explained. We heard he had a car accident. What's his condition now? The nurse frowned and seemed embarrassed. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm afraid you've been deceived. We haven't had any automobile accident victims today, much less a patient named Teague. Lety and I looked at each other like we'd been hit in the head. How is this possible? But we got a call from the hospital saying Teague was in critical condition. The nurse shrugged her shoulders and looked helpless. Maybe someone played a cruel joke on you. But I can tell you very responsibly that this person, Teague, is definitely not in our hospital. Lety and I stood still, unable to say a word for half a day. After a long time, Lety shakily took out her cell phone and dialed Teague's number. The phone was quickly answered, and Teague's familiar voice came through. Hey Lety, it's late. What can I do for you? Lety's hands shook so violently she could barely hold the phone. Teague, you're okay? You weren't in a car accident? There was a puzzled silence on the other end of the line.
À car accident?
What could possibly be wrong with me? I'm at home watching TV right now. But you called just to ask that? Lety's face turned white and her lips trembled as she couldn't speak. I quickly took the phone and said to Teague, Sorry, Teague. We may have been lied to. Someone called us and told us that you had been in a car accident and were in the hospital. We're freaking out. That's why we're calling to make sure. Teague is silent for a moment, then suddenly bursts into a fit of laughter. God, you guys are so gullible. This is obviously a prank. I don't know which boring guy did it. Well, since I'm fine, you guys can rest easy. Well, I have to keep watching TV, so I'll stop chatting. After that, he hung up, leaving Lety and I staring at each other with mixed feelings. What the hell is going on here? I scratched my head in confusion. Who would do such a nasty prank? Who would lie to us about what happened to Teague for no reason? Lety shook her head, bewilderment and helplessness written all over her face. I don't know, Benson, I really don't understand any of this. I sighed and gently took Lety's shoulder. Forget it. Since Teague is safe, we can forget about it. Maybe it's just a prank by someone who's bored. Come on, let's go home. Lety nodded silently and walked out of the hospital with me. But I could feel that in her heart, she was not completely relieved. A terrible thought began to take shape in my mind. Could it be that all of this is Teague's self-directed play? Could it be that he was deliberately testing my relationship with Lety, deliberately putting us in such an awkward situation? But I quickly shook my head and pushed the thought out of my mind. No, I can't be so free with my suspicions. I can't let my jealousy and fear dominate my judgment without proof. No matter what the truth is, I have to face it honestly and deal with it with reason and wisdom. Lety and I were silent on the way home. This drama seemed to cast a shadow in our hearts. It made us realize clearly for the first time that our relationship had not yet fully emerged from the haze of the past. Trust is still a subject that we need to work together on. Lety, we need to talk. Walking into the house, I gently took Lety's hand. About what happened tonight. Lety's body shuddered slightly, but she nodded obediently. We sat down side by side on the sofa, neither of us saying anything. After a long time, I finally plucked up the courage to break the silence. Lety, I don't know what all this is about, but whatever the truth is, I want you to know that I'm always on your side. We're husband and wife, and we have each other's backs. No matter what happens, I will always trust you, support you, and protect you. Lety's eyes instantly reddened. She gripped my hand tightly and tears slid down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Benson. I know I've let you down. But believe me, I really don't have any feelings for Teague. You're the only one I've ever loved. I gently wiped the tears from Lety's face and took her into my arms. Of course I believe in you, baby. I never doubted your love for me. It's just that. It's just that sometimes I'm really scared of losing you. Lety hugged me back and sobbed softly in my arms. You'll never lose me, Benson. You'll never lose me, Benson. I swear that I'll be faithful to you and to our marriage for the rest of my life. No matter what storms lie ahead, I'll be with you and I'll never leave you. A warm current welled up in my heart. Yes, how can I forget that this weak woman in front of me actually has an incredibly strong heart? She is willing to our feelings, endure all the suffering and trials. She is willing to use their own way to prove her love for me. Such a woman, how can I let go? I kissed Lety's lips, feeling her warmth and sweetness. At this moment, all suspicions and fears vanished. I know, as long as we are close to each other, there is no difficulty that cannot be crossed. This marriage will become stronger and more beautiful under the watering of love. Dear Lety, let's walk hand in hand. There may be bumps in the road and trials ahead, but as long as I have you by my side, I will have the courage and strength to face everything. After the hospital incident, Lety and I became closer. The false alarm became a catalyst for our relationship. It made us realize more clearly that we are each other's most important person, a harbor that cannot be shaken no matter what the storm. In the following days, we continued to fulfill our one-year agreement. Lety became more and more accustomed to obeying my schedule and enjoyed this special relationship. She began to approach me to discuss difficulties at work and to seek my advice on family decisions. Between us, a new kind of trust and tacit understanding was established. Life got back on track, and we spent some time in peace and happiness. Until one day, an unexpected person suddenly appeared in front of me. That day, I was busy in the store as usual. Suddenly, the store door was pushed open and a familiar figure walked in. I looked up and was surprised to find that it was Florence, my high school classmate and my first love.
Benson.
Long time no see. Florence waved enthusiastically at me, a big smile on her face. I froze for a moment, dropped what I was doing, and greeted her. Florence, is it really you? My God, how many years has it been since we've seen each other? 10 years? 15 years? Florence smiled and patted me on the shoulder. It's about the same. After I graduated, I went to Europe to work, and I haven't been back since. I didn't realize you'd stayed in this town and opened a gun store. I scratched my head in embarrassment. Yeah, I'm a homebody. I never want to leave here. How are you doing in Europe? How's work going? Florence shrugged her shoulders, a complex look flashing across her face. It's okay, just a little tired. But I have now returned to the country, intend to rest for a while. Just go back home to see, by the way. By the way, to see you. When she said the last sentence, a special kind of emotion appeared in her eyes. My heart tightened and I subconsciously took a step back. That's great. Welcome home. After that, we chatted some more and Florence left. But as she was leaving, she suddenly turned around and gave me a meaningful look. By the way, Benson, I've rented a small apartment in town. Why don't we have a coffee sometime and catch up? After saying that, she shoved me a note with the address and phone number, and then turned away in style, leaving me standing alone in a daze with mixed feelings. Florence's appearance made me feel very surprised and uneasy. To be honest, she was my first love, a very important person in my youthful memory. Back then, we spent a lot of good time together and had countless bright ideas for the future. But then, Florence chose to leave town and me to pursue her career. That was the end of our relationship. The end of that relationship made me sad for a long time, and even made me lose faith in love for a while. It was not until I met Lety that I rekindled my hope for love. Lety's gentleness, Lety's tolerance and understanding made me find a long-lost happiness and peace of mind. I thought I had completely stepped out of the shadow of the past and was ready to grow old with Lety. But Florence's appearance still cast a subtle ripple in my heart. She still seemed to exude the same kind of passionate and unrestrained charm, and still retained her fatal attraction to me. I found it hard to ignore her completely and not to think of our past moments. I was in a deep state of self-doubt. I couldn't understand why Florence would come back to town, to my life, at this time. Did her presence mean anything? Did she still have feelings for me? More importantly, do I still have some special feelings for her? Can my love for Lety withstand such a test? For the next few days, I was in a state of inner turmoil. I tried not to think about Florence and tried to devote all my energy to Lety, but the fluttering in the back of my heart never went away. Finally, one weekend morning, I found the courage to confess to Lety about Florence. I told her that my first love was back in town, and I told her about my inner struggle and confusion. I originally thought Lety would get angry and ask me if I still had any fantasies about Florence. But to my surprise, Lety just listened to my story quietly and held my hand gently. Benson, I understand how you feel. First love is always unforgettable. It carries too many good memories. When faced with a past lover, anyone can't help but feel touched and nostalgic. She looked deep into my eyes, her tone full of determination. But I believe in you, Benson. But I believe in you, Benson, and I believe that you won't let a momentary fling sway our relationship. I believe that after a year of being together, we've built an unbreakable bond of trust and understanding between us. Lety's words brought a warm current to my heart. Yes, how can I deny our relationship for so many years just because of a little confusion? How can I betray Lety's trust and tolerance? I hugged Lety tightly and whispered in her ear, "Thank you, darling. Thank you for believing in me and supporting me as always. I swear that no matter what happens, I will never betray our love. Florence is the past tense, and you are my present and future." Lety hugged me back and nodded softly in my arms. I knew that I had made the right choice. Saying goodbye to the past is the only way to embrace our tomorrow. In the following days, Florence came to see me a few more times. But each time, I politely declined her invitation. I told her that I already had a loving wife and a beautiful family, and that everything in the past was a cloud. Florence was obviously disappointed, but understood. Before she left, she said to me in a meaningful way, "Benson, I sincerely wish you and Lety, perhaps we are just passing through each other's lives, destined not to join hands to the end. But I sincerely hope that you can find your own happiness." As I watched Florence's back disappear around the corner, a wave of sadness washed over me. Yes, we may have had good memories, but they are in the past. Now I have something more to cherish and a better future. I know that I have finally come out of this emotional turmoil. I know that my love for Lety has withstood the test and become more indestructible. After the Florence incident, my relationship with Lety seemed to have reached a whole new level. The ordeal made us realize more clearly the weight of each other's hearts and made us more determined to spend our lives together. We began to talk more about our future and started making long-term plans for our marriage and family. We talked about moving to a bigger house, about having another child. Every time we talked about it, we felt the infinite possibilities of life and how well we fit each other's hearts. At the same time, Our one-year engagement has quietly come to an end. Looking back on this year, Lety and I have a lot of feelings. This special test has baptized our relationship in a way we've never experienced before and has sublimated our hearts like never before. We all know that it is this agreement that allows us to learn how to love, how to trust, and how to run a relationship that has been unchanging for a long time. It makes us understand that marriage is never a momentary passion, but requires a lifetime of learning, bonding, and growing together. On the day the engagement ended, I organized a grand celebration. I took Lety to the place where we first met, a small town with white sandy beaches and blue water. The sun was setting, the sea breeze was blowing. I got down on one knee and put the ring on Lety's hand once again. Dear, this year is the most precious year of our marriage. Thank you for the trust and tolerance you have given me this year, and thank you for growing with me this year. I looked deep into Lety's eyes with unchanging love. From now on, I will no longer be your master, but your most loyal companion, your most solid support. No matter what storms lie ahead, I will face them hand in hand with you forever. Lety's eyes overflowed with tears of happiness. She held my hand tightly and said emotionally, Benson, this year is also the most precious year of my life. Thank you for making me realize that loving someone is not about losing oneself, but about finding the meaning of life in mutual trust. No matter how long the road ahead is, I will walk with you and never part. We kissed in the sunset and sealed all the details of this year in this kiss. I know, from now on, we will embark on a new journey hand in hand. Our relationship will become thicker and more permanent as time goes by. When she got home, Lety told me excitedly that she had decided to quit her current job and start pursuing her true dream. I want to open my own accounting firm to provide professional services to more people. This has always been my dream, and now I think it's time to realize it. I embraced Lety with joy and was genuinely happy for her. That's great, dear. You are going to be a great boss. Remember, I will always support you and be proud of you, no matter how far you go in your career. I also have new plans of my own. After a year's hard work, I have a higher pursuit for my career. I plan to open an outdoor goods supermarket on the basis of the gun store to provide more outdoor enthusiasts with high-quality equipment and services. Lety was immediately supportive and said she'd use her expertise to advise me on the financial and managerial aspects of my venture. We are a perfect match, my dear. Your business is my business, and we can create a new world together. The following days, we were both busy. Lety started to build her own office, and I started to prepare for the opening of the supermarket. Although it was hard work, seeing each other working hard for our dreams filled our hearts with unprecedented satisfaction and happiness. We know that as long as we walk hand in hand, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome. There may be many bumps in the road of our career, but as long as we have each other, there is nothing that can stop us from achieving success. The power of love makes us fearless and gives us the courage to pursue our dreams. Life is becoming infinitely better because of each other. Dear Lety, thank you for giving me a complete home and the motivation to follow my dreams. Every day, I will hold your hand firmly and walk through every chapter of my life with you. Our marriage has been revitalized by love, and our lives are moving forward to a brighter tomorrow with each other's watchfulness. Time flies, and the years go by like a shuttle. In the blink of an eye, Lety and I have been married for 15 years. Looking back on these years, we have gone through too many storms hand in hand, but also harvested too much laughter. Lety's career has flourished and her accounting firm has become one of the best in the region. She has helped countless companies out of financial difficulties and realized value enhancement through her professionalism and wisdom. Her name has become a flagship in the industry and is highly respected. My outdoor supermarket has also developed into a chain brand. We have open branches all over the country, providing quality service for more and more outdoor enthusiasts. Watching my career step by step towards success, my heart is full of pride and satisfaction. However, for me, the greatest happiness comes from my family. Over the years, Lety has given me two lovely children, a son, Ethan, and a daughter, Abby, whose births have brought endless joy and hope into our lives. Whenever I hold my children and look at their innocent smiles, a warm current rises in my heart. I know that they are the most precious gift in my life and the meaning of all my efforts. For the sake of the children, Lety and I work harder and cherish every moment we spend together. We do our best to create a warm and happy environment for the children to grow up. We show them the beauty of the world, teach them how to love, and how to be a good and honest person. Watching my children grow up day by day, watching them gradually have their own ideas and pursuits, my heart is full of gratification. I know that no matter what kind of path they will take in the future, no matter what kind of difficulties they will encounter in the future, as parents, we will always support them and love them. At this moment, Lety and I are walking hand in hand under the sunset. We deliberately chose our wedding anniversary to come to the place where we made our vows, to remember our love and to envision our future. My dear, in these 15 years, we have traveled many roads together. I gently hold Lety's hand, said softly, "There are laughter, there are tears, there are sweet, there are also quarrels. But no matter what we've been through, we've always moved forward hand in hand, never separated." Lety smiled and nodded, happy tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. "Yes, my dear. These 15 years have been the best 15 years of my life. Thank you for giving me a warm home and a love that is so deep in my heart." I gazed into Lety's eyes, which reflected the setting sun and the tenderness of my life. "Lety, today, I want to make a promise to you again, that every day of my life, in good times and bad, in sickness and in health, I will hold your hand and be with you." I slowly knelt down and put the ring on Lety's hand once again. "Darling, will you continue to be my wife for the rest of your life?" Lety nodded emotionally, tears running silently down her cheeks. "I do, Benson. I do, Benson. In this life and in the next, for richer or for poorer, I will always be with you. Our love will transcend time and life." We kissed under the setting sun and sealed our commitment to each other in that kiss. At that moment, time seemed to stand still, and everything was moved by our love. Dear Lety, thank you for coming into my life. Thank you for giving me so many years of companionship and happiness. From now on, let us continue to work hand in hand, to experience every peak and trough in life, to experience every bit of sweet and sour in the world. I firmly believe that as long as we have each other, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. As long as we always carry the courage to love, life will always be full of hope and beauty. At this moment, I make a promise to you once again. I will love you, cherish you, and protect you until the end of my life, forever. Lety, my dear wife, let's join hands for a brighter future. Let's use our love to light up each other's lives and warm up the world. I love you more than anything in the world. I love you to the end of time. Let our love become the most touching legend in this world. Let our love light up each other's way. Darling, I'll always be yours and you'll always be mine. Let's spend the rest of our lives hand in hand, every tomorrow. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.